Hi, I'm Lynne Golodner, and you're listening to the Make Meaning podcast. I'm a former journalist and the author of 9 books, a writing coach, and a marketing expert. In this show, I interview authors and people in publishing about how they find inspiration, how they build their brands and choose their publishing paths, and most of all, how they find meaning in the mundane. If you want to learn more about how to get your writing career off the ground, visit my website, lynnegolodner.com, and check out the classes, programs, and retreats that I offer. And if you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star review at Apple Podcasts or on any podcast platform where you find the Make Meaning podcast. I hope these stories give you the courage and confidence to make your writing dreams come true. Thanks for listening. Ana Veciana-Suarez is a syndicated columnist for Tribune Content Agency and author of several books, including the recent novel Dulcinea. She's also the author of a young adult novel, Flight to Freedom, and a collection of essays called Birthday Parties in Heaven, Thoughts on Life, Love, Grief, and Other Matters of the Heart. Ana's commentary appears weekly in the Miami Herald and several other newspapers and websites. Her writing has also appeared in Reader's Digest, O Magazine, Woman's Day, the Washington Post Magazine, Parenting, and Latina. And she's won awards from the Society of Professional Journalists, the American Society of Feature and Sunday Editors, Women in Communications, and the Florida Society of Newspaper Editors. The mother of 5, Ana lives in Miami with her husband. Hi, Ana. Welcome to the Make Meaning podcast.
Thank you, Lynn. I'm happy to be here.
So I love to begin by asking authors about their earliest memory of writing. What is yours?
I remember being somewhere in 2nd grade and writing little stories. Remember the old lined paper?
Yeah.
And that was about the time that my English had also gotten better. And I remember that with a pencil, having little drawings to go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I imagine both the drawing and the writing were pretty bad.
And now you're a journalist and an author. And, I want to hear all about your writing process. I know that you're a journalist by day and author by night. I want to hear how you juggle everything and not burn out from writing.
Well, the juggling sometimes doesn't go so well. And it's almost, I think it's a process that evolves. The latest I've now come to find out, and I don't know if this is a factor of age or how fragmented our focus has become because of social media. But what I try to do is block off certain times during my day to do projects, whether it's the journalism or whether it's the writing, because I find that I have trouble juggling or making the leap from one thing to another. The journalist, yes, you write, but the writing is so different. It's much more formulaic. You're dealing with facts. You're usually, or I am usually under a pretty strict deadline. So that's, quite different. And of course, it's, I write mostly short form journalism. So I have a syndicated column that's about 600 to 650 words. I write for a medical website, and that's rarely more than 700 or 800 words. With fiction, you're writing 80, 90, 100,000 words. So it's, it's almost a different part of your writing brain.
Sure.
I try, if I'm, for example, doing interviews or writing journalism, I try to devote that day just to that.
Makes sense. Yeah. So I'd love to hear about the process of writing your novel. So how did you come to the idea and what was the process? Because, historical fiction, there's like the writing of fiction, but then there's the researching for historical fiction. So tell me about that.
Well, I got the idea for this book about 50 years ago, which kind of dates me, but I was in 10th grade in a Spanish 4 class and reading through, with the class, of course, Don Quixote in that old archaic Spanish that is so painful to read, even if Spanish is my first language. It's actually the language I first began writing in.
Okay.
Anyway, I always thought, oh, who is this Dulcinea and
Mhm.
why is she kind of at the edges of the story?
Mm.
She's never center stage.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I said, oh, one day I am going to bring her into the limelight. She's going to have her own story
Mhm.
and her own life.
Mhm.
Well, a lot of years passed, and part of it is I wrote other fiction, but quite honestly, I was really frightened
Mm.
by the undertaking of doing this research.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about Golden Age Spain. I was very familiar with Spain and in particular Barcelona
Mhm.
because I visit family there pretty regularly.
Mhm.
But there's a big difference between 20th and 21st century
Mhm. Mhm.
and the early 1600s.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really kind of put it off. I did other things. And in the meantime, I was also raising 5 children and
Sure.
all the hectic chaos that comes with it. And it
Mhm.
wasn't really till about 2017
Mhm.
when I took a buyout from my hometown paper.
Mhm.
And though I continued to write my weekly column for
Mhm.
syndication and I continued to freelance, it was the first time I really had any, blocks of time where I
Mhm.
could do research.
Sure. Sure.
And that's really when I seriously started. And I started probably devoting about a year and a half to
Mm.
doing research. I must have read
Mhm.
at least 2 dozen books. It
Mhm.
just in the Cervantes biography,
Mhm.
probably about half a dozen.
Mm.
And that's time consuming. You take,
Sure.
and I now realize as I work on my second historical fiction that I probably totally over researched. Totally. I
Yeah.
could go on Jeopardy, and if they had a 16th century factoids of Golden Age Spain, I'm sure I would do very well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. So, tell me a little bit about how the book Dulcinea has gone, what response has been. Tell me how you're marketing it. I'd love to hear all about it.
I am actually just 1 week in.
Mhm.
So I'm doing most things virtually, not intentionally. What happened, I was expecting a grandchild
Oh,
the same week that my book was going to be out.
okay.
I blocked off 2 weeks because,
Mhm.
as we all know, grandchildren and
Mhm.
children and babies, just in general, arrive when they're good and ready. As it turned out, Elizabeth
Mhm.
was early.
Oh.
So I was able to add on podcasts and virtual
Mhm.
appearances and also appearances locally. So
Mhm.
that was kind of different from my other books.
Mhm.
And I think the marketing is so different from what I remember of my last books. And of course, a whole generation has passed,
Mhm.
between those books and now.
Mhm.
So there's a lot more work involved for the writer, but
Mhm.
I also think there's a lot more opportunity. We have social media.
Mhm.
We can appear before a book club across the country.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So that has changed. And one thing I think I have found that is also different is that there's a writing community
Mhm.
that is much easier to belong to, also because of technology.
Yeah.
And within this writing community, I have found it very welcoming and
Mhm.
everybody seems to help each other. So they'll say, hey, do you know about this? Hey, do you know about that? And then again, I've been a reader all my life, so
Mhm.
I know how I discover books and I follow book bloggers. I
Mhm.
follow
Mhm.
uh, I'm on Goodreads. So that's another avenue that didn't exist before. That's an excellent source of marketing and publicity for a writer.
Yeah, I have found that the writing community is so supportive. And, I've been a writer all my life and I have a bunch of books out, but I find that now I can join the Women's Fiction Writers Association, or I live in Michigan. There's an organization called Michigan Writers. There's so many opportunities, and I can do it all from the comfort of my home. I mean, I can also go to events, but it's really nice to have that contact without having to always travel. It's amazing what we can do now.
Right, exactly. Even my research, what happened, going back to Dulcinea,
Yeah.
I applied and received a grant for research.
Okay.
And it was at the beginning of 2020. And of course, we all know
Yeah.
what
Yes.
happened in 2020. And by then I was well into writing the story, because even though you need these facts, and even though you have to be immersed in this world of the past,
Mm-hmm.
the narrative is what readers are interested in and what really carries the momentum. So I was well into it, and I kept waiting to think, oh, I'm going to go over it, I'm going to fill in. And in Europe, it wasn't, we opened, or at least we in Florida opened, and then we kind of all stayed open in spite of all the stuff that happened.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they would close down.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would reopen. And every time I'd ask, my family, my cousins, hey, should we go? They would say, no. The museums are closed. The libraries are closed. The archives, you're not going to have access.
Mm.
And it turned out that, by then I had really found my way around all kinds of the corners of the internet, and found all kinds of material that I could use. And it was only early in January of this year that I actually went over. By then, of course, the book was finally edited, but I got to do research for the second book. But, technology, it's a double-edged sword, as we all know, whether it's in social media or anything else. But, I think it's, by and large, at least for me as a writer, it has been truly beneficial.
Awesome. That's amazing. So let me ask about your next project. What are you working on now?
Well, I was doing the research for Dulcinea, and I was reading all kinds and finding all kinds of material online. There were theses, there were books that Google had scanned, old books. I mean, like 400-year-old books, diaries, all kinds of things. I discovered some material on this war that happened when Catalonia tried yet again to leave the Spanish monarchy. They've been trying this for centuries. And what interested me about it was considered to be the first war where modern journalism, in the form of pamphlets, tracts, and leaflets, had played an important part in, I guess, revving up the population and getting people to fight and do other things. And as a journalist, I found that really interesting. So, and I'm sure, Lynne, you can identify with this when you kind of fall into that rabbit hole of
yes.
research.
Yes.
And,
yeah. It's like one topic after another after another. And it's like, where do I have time to write all these books, right?
Right. I said, wow, this is interesting. Wow, I didn't know this. Wow. And then when, of course, I traveled over there to do more research. I had a cousin who connected me with a couple of historians at the university there. So that led to more things. But I think it was a really serendipity. And, now I'm trying to get through the first draft, which is hard because, as I said, I have, like I call it the job that pays the bills.
Yes. Yep.
And then while writing this fiction, and then also publicizing a book that's already out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's 3 jobs. And then, of course, you're still a mom and you're a grandmother. And, I'm sure that's the most important job that grabs your attention. But
Yes.
do your children live near you, or are they all over the place?
They're all over the place. So my youngest, or my last grandchild, was born in Atlanta, and she's grandchild number 9.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
And yes, and they're in different cities. So when I visit,
Hmm.
unless I'm flying directly to babysit or for some function,
Hmm.
I end up, my husband and I get in the car
Hmm.
and we make, the travels around the four city, stopping
Yep.
at each of them. And as you probably know too, there's a window of time where you're of interest to your grandchildren. And I
Yes.
have teenage grandchildren now.
Yeah.
They're in high school and they're sweet and adorable, but they have more important things than their boring grandmother.
Aw. Aw. Well, I hope that changes. And I know it changed for me. I mean, my kids are grown now, but when I was a kid, I know when I was in my 20s, I just was like, it was like magnetic force that drew me to my grandparents. And I felt so lucky to still have them. And so I hope that changes for you soon.
And they do, and it's funny, they've been the two oldest who are identical twins. They're in the
Mhm.
midst of taking AP tests. So I'm
Mhm.
not trying to nag them and FaceTime them and so on until the
Sure.
weekend.
Yeah.
But it's very cute because now I think I've lived long enough
Mhm.
where my grandchildren are fans of my writing.
Oh,
And
I love that.
and they will tell me, "Oh, you need to repost this." And it's like a video they've done.
Oh, I love it. That is
And to
so cool.
me, yeah, it just kind of like, oh, it grabs my heart and twists it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That is so, so cool. Well, that's something to strive for. I'm going to keep that in mind as my kids grow and God willing, give me grandchildren before too long too. Yes. So I do want to ask you, Anna, what advice might you offer to aspiring writers who are listening to this conversation?
Well, I think the advice I would give them is steps that have been very worthwhile to my development as a writer. And I think first and foremost is to read and read and read some more. And to read if you want to become a journalist or a historical fiction writer or a
Mhm.
thriller writer,
Mhm.
read in that genre
Mhm.
and see how the masters of that genre
Mhm.
put together a story or
Yeah.
even put together a scene. And by
Mhm.
deconstructing this, I can tell you because I did not have creative writing
Mhm. Mhm.
skills. You learn so much. And I don't think you can be a writer
Mhm.
without being an avid reader.
Mhm.
You know, it's like a musician who won't practice
Right, right.
or who doesn't know their scales or their chords. It's just a matter.
Mhm.
And then to me, what's also very, very important is self discipline.
Mhm.
I cannot afford to wait for inspiration.
Mhm.
I think the muse is very fickle.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I have a schedule. Writing is a job. It's not, this little vocation that I'll visit every once in a while.
Mhm.
And I do. I keep my schedule. I put as I say, my proverbial butt in my proverbial chair
Mhm. Mhm.
and work. And some days are good
Yeah.
and some days are bad, and you just push through those bad days because there are some good days.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I love that. And it's wonderful to hear because, I think a lot of people are under the impression that there'll be this magical time when writing will just happen and they'll be done with the job that pays the bills or whatever it is, it's going to be this stroke of luck and then boom, I can write. And I've learned, you have to just do it because you love it and keep doing it. But also you may very well be working, parallel jobs so that you can have that beautiful writing time. And you just have to accept that. It's not always, it is an art. It can be a vocation, but you just have to do the work. And then it definitely takes you somewhere if you're dedicated to it.
Exactly. And I really do think you hit the nail on the head. And it's not just writing. You think of the arts,
Mm-hmm.
musicians.
Mm-hmm.
I know music teachers who one day
Mm-hmm.
think they'll be able to either sing professionally or play professionally.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, they have to do gigs. The same is true of painters, of actors. How many
Yeah.
actors and actresses you hear have waited on tables for
Mm-hmm.
years or done something else until
Mm-hmm.
they get that break? It's
Yeah.
kind of taking one step at a time, or
Mm-hmm.
one word on top of one word on top of one sentence and one paragraph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Well, Ana, it's lovely to chat with you. Dulcinea is a beautiful book. It is such a lovely story, so original. I encourage everybody listening to pick up a copy, post reviews, and I just can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you, Lynn, and good luck with you. I think every writer needs a stroke of luck, a little rabbit's foot.
And lots of writer friends, right?
And a lot of writer friends, because they're the only ones who understand.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ana, for being on the Make Meaning podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Make Meaning podcast with Lynne Golodner. You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. If you like what you've heard, subscribe and share this episode with the meaningful people in your world. And please leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. You can learn more at makemeaning.org or lynnegolodner.com.